Hi everybody, Daniel here from Basement Tech. So I've mentioned in a few videos the various sources I use to get the materials for my projects, and one of those was the Hamfest. As I briefly mentioned those couple of times, the Hamfest is electronics and computer swap fest, usually sponsored by ham radio clubs as fundraisers. You can find a place to search for those on a website related to ham radio called arrl.org. I'll put it in the comments at the bottom of the page. There you can search on your state and see when they occur. They usually occur during the nice weather, but there are a few in the winter, and the mother of all Hamfest is in Dayton, Ohio in early May. So I went to a Hamfest this last weekend and had a lot of success that I want to share with you. Mostly to just kind of calibrate you on the things you can get and the prices that you typically pay. So starting kind of at the bottom with some of the smaller items, a switch like this. I do always find myself needing big red switches, either for whimsical things like I had one that opened the garage door, or I may use this in the surveillance project for a panic button or something like that. This is an industrial controls type switch. It has two contacts and is lit from the bottom with an LED light, a bayonet type light. So I paid $2 for this. I'm sure it cost, I don't know, in real terms, in real life, maybe $10 or something. So that was pretty good, I thought. Not the best bargain of the day, however. Last time I talked about getting a camera for $1, or maybe it was $2. That was a 720p camera. This one is 1080p, completely functional, and I paid $5 for this one. I thought that was a pretty good bargain since they typically cost, what, $40, $50, $30, something like that. Way less, or sorry, way more than $5. I have a Motorola radio that I've converted to ham radio use, but the little volume knob, the volume control is scratchy, and I was seeking this little board here, and really hard to find. This was $1 in somebody's junk box. That's very typical when people get tired of moving their stuff from one place to the other. They'll just throw it for $1, excuse me, or even sometimes free. Rather than just throw it in the trash, they'd rather recycle it to somebody else in the hobby. So that's going to help me fix my Motorola radio for $1. I have used these in the past. It's a USB external sound card. Pretty old, I admit, and sometimes drivers are hard to come by, but Linux systems will recognize it, and it provides way better audio, especially for a laptop, than the typical built-in audio cards. $1. So I thought that was pretty good. Not necessarily something I went there to get, but as you look around, you get ideas, which I think is part of the fun as well. I have a meter that was in need of a fancy yellow case instead of the black one that it's in. $1 in somebody's $1 box. Now I'm starting to get to some of the things that are a bit more interesting. This one was $10. I'm just going to show you the connectors, give you 2 seconds to think about what it is. Those are antenna connectors for over-the-air antennas, and that's an Ethernet connector. So this makes television, broadcast television, available on my local network, so I can watch it on any TV, any computer in the house. I thought that was fun and interesting for $10. Again, not something I was interested in or knew I was going to buy, but when I saw it, I kind of had to have it. Finally, two other items, which I think were sort of the buys of the day. I'll start here at this one. I do some electrical work once in a while, project-wise, or in my son's shop, zimknives.com, his knife shop, and once in a while I need to measure currents. This is a device called a amp probe, and it's just very popular among electricians. I've never seen the actual whole kit with all of the accessories. This one measures voltage to 600 volts, current to 300 amps. It even has a way to measure resistance and the phasing of different things. I got that whole kit for $10, completely functional. I don't know what it would have cost new. It's a bit old, you can see. Things don't come in fancy leather cases anymore. Completely functional though, and it's going to be great for the once in a while things I need to do, measuring big currents, like with grinder motors and such. So finally, this item in the middle. I was in need of a new radio for my car. Buying new or buying used is always the question, but this one I think was such a bargain I kind of had to pick it up. This is the ICOM. I'll show you on the label so you can see it for sure. The ICOM IC208H. I believe this came out about 10 years ago and sold for in the low 300s, 329 kind of dollars. For those of you who aren't hams, you can just note the price and the fact that I actually paid only $50 for this. Completely functional. I asked the guy if it worked and he said yes. I have done some bench testing and it does indeed, but this is a major point I want to make about Hamfest. There are no warranties for anything that you buy, so you have to trust your seller and or get some kind of contact information. So if you buy a higher priced item like this one, you have some recourse if it doesn't work, especially if they claim that it does. So definitely at Hamfest, it's buyer beware. I've never purchased anything more used than say this $50 item or such, but that's quite a bargain, I think. The radio is completely functional, and I'll use it regularly for only $50. It really filled a need. I was planning to buy a new radio, so I won't have to do that. I wanted to show a few pictures here at the end of the Hamfest itself. You typically pay $5 to $10 maximum to get in, and that's part of the fundraising for the clubs. But also, if you're going to be a seller, some Hamfests are free for selling, like this one. You just drive your car up and unload your goods and start selling. Others do charge, say, $10 for a table, especially if it's an indoor venue where the club has to rent some space in order to have the event, like a Hamfest in the winter. So to be a seller ranges from $5 to say $15. To be a buyer, it's usually $5 or $6 or $7. So anyway, hope you got a good idea of what Hamfests are all about. If you like the video, like it. If you really like, subscribe to the channel and you'll see things like this and or project activity here in the basement.